We're going to be streaming, guys. Good morning. I am kind of on time. Kind of. But we're going to be talking about George Bush. I don't call him HW, and I don't call him senior because it's not senior. Jesse calls him Bush the Daddy.
Oh, it's the Hake Report, the Hake Report, la la la. Oh, it's the Hake Report, the Hake Report, la la la.
Good morning, guys. In case you haven't heard, President George Bush, the daddy, died at 94. Rest in peace, but he really spoiled my impression of him. And we're going to be talking about that.
Oh, it's the Hake Report, the Hake Report, la la la. Oh, it's the Hake Report, the Hake Report, la la la.
So, good morning. Welcome to the Hake Report. This is James Hake, and you can call in at 888-775-3773. 888-775-3773, as some are apt to say. And I will get to your calls. I appreciate them. But I wanted to just tell you guys that, kind of unsurprisingly, because he's been in a rough situation for some time. I'm going to go down a little bit. President George Bush died. And he was the first president that was newly elected in my lifetime. I was born a few months after Carter left office and Reagan had just started. And when I was in second grade, at age 7, the teacher held a mock election. And I forget who won between George Bush in 1988 and Michael Dukakis or whatever that guy's name was in the mock election of our class. But the way that the teacher described Bush, because I wasn't paying attention, was that he's like Reagan. And so I liked him for that reason, and I told my mom on election day, 1988, to vote for Bush. And she did, and I don't know if I should have done that. No, I don't know. I think he's better than Dukakis would have been. But yeah, I generally had a positive impression of this man. I liked how he was skinny. I liked how, compared to like Clinton, and who was a little chunkier in his younger days. And I liked that, I don't know, he looked a little bit vaguely like Reagan. And when I was a kid, I thought that Oliver North was Ronald Reagan too. All kinds of things. And so, like, he was a one-term president. And I guess some say it's because he said, read my lips, no new taxes, and then he raised taxes. And others say he was just, I don't know, Clinton was more exciting to them or something. He was the first black president. But anyways, like, I remember I think I was in homeschool the one year that Clinton got elected. Oddly enough, I generally went to public school, but I remember writing a paper, an essay called "Why I Would Not Have Voted for Bill Clinton," and I listed a bunch of reasons, and it was mostly, I think, moral reasons, and I turned out to be right, and so nobody really had any dignity after, like, in my mind, I thought of Reagan as dignified or something, or decent. And I thought of Bush as generally decent. I was a kid. I didn't really pay that much attention. Although he said that you don't have to eat broccoli. That was not a good example. But I don't know, if it's cooked poorly, then I guess it's okay not to have to eat it because broccoli can smell pretty nasty. But anyways, that's Bush. Bush was famous for saying you don't have to eat broccoli. But more recently, he's come out to be kind of nasty, or came out to be kind of nasty. And these anti-Trump conservatives, man, so-called conservatives, whatever you want to call them, rhinos, Republicans, whatever, establishment types, they're not good. I came across a couple of articles, and I'm going to show you some of them before I get to the calls. Let's go ahead and show these articles, Joel. This guy, he said about George Bush, the daddy, said about Donald Trump, I don't like him. And he's too old not to be liking people. You would think that he would be like a sweet old man. No, not so. Some people get nasty with age. There was this book that was written about him and his relationship with his son W, and it was called The Last Republicans. And it turns out that George W. Bush left the presidential slot on the ballot blank. He did not vote for Trump, reportedly. And George H.W. Bush, which means the father, voted for Hillary Clinton. Can you believe it? And this was kind of confirmed by a prior report that he told a group of people that he would be voting for Hillary Clinton. That's so crooked, Hillary, that he voted for her. There was another article that came out prior, I think, where he told them that you would be voting for Hillary. Show that one, Joel. Yeah, look at that. Ex-President George H.W. Bush reportedly intends to vote for Hillary Clinton. That was according to the Press Herald. A Kennedy family member leaked that information, but I think he told a private party of like 30 people or something like that he would be doing that. Shameful. And go back to that prior one. Yeah, no, the one before. George W. Bush, speaking of these fake people, he criticized Trump for his lack of humility. Now, this just shows me that, which he says was a guiding force among his own family. Yeah, right. This shows me that most people don't really know what humility is, and so they think that Trump is not humble, and they think that they are sometimes. But this guy reportedly, these people are just so nasty. And it's kind of nice that Donald Trump brought that out of them so that we could see what they really are like. Now go to the next one. These people. Blech. After witnessing the current president's infamous American Carnage inauguration speech, George W. Bush was reported to have uttered the memorable and, in this writer's words, accurate assessment, that was some weird S blank. And he's referring to President Trump's inauguration speech in which he said the American carnage will stop, and he basically painted a dire but accurate picture of America, how divided we are, how the establishment has taken advantage of everybody's gullibility in voting for them. He didn't say that part, but he said that the establishment was having their way and leaving the good people all behind. Or, just the people in general behind. Neglecting the American people and letting the illegals in and allowing crime to spike out of control again and just not being right. And he was so right. I remember that speech was such a good speech, but all the media was like, what is he talking about? He's painting like an apocalyptic picture of America. And this just shows me that George W. Bush also doesn't get it or is dishonest, or both, really. Because people who don't get it, you can kind of tell that they're dishonest. Like, consider your own self. When you don't get something when you're not getting something, and I mean like something that's true, if you look at yourself, it's because there's something dishonest about you that you're not getting. Hey, it's Patrick. Patrick's back. President Trump's inauguration speech was awesome, as is his presidency. Yes. Although it's so funny because, like, all these people leading up, Reagan, Bush, George W. Bush, I kind of thought that they were pretty decent people. And Reagan, I kind of think is still decent. But anyways, like these people, and he died like that. That's what's sad. George Bush, not Reagan, but George Bush. It's I don't even want to say it, but these people are a mess. The anti-Trump conservatives, they don't do well. Look at Arizona Senator Jeff Flake. He's dropping out, and thank goodness he's going to be gone in January. But some of these older folks, I don't think they can afford to be anti-Trump or nasty like this, because as you get older, life gets tougher on you. The consequences get tougher on you, and think about all the anti-Trump conservatives who've died now. Charles Krauthammer was like a respected man, but he was kind of anti-Trump, and he got sick and he died. John McCain was a lot of us voted for him in 2008, and he died. He was very nastily anti-Trump, and yeah, a lot of us really didn't like him because he was a rhino, but then he turned really nasty when Trump came around. So it's not good to not be right. And now George Bush. And man, it's tough to watch. It was tough to watch him kind of deteriorate. Like, you saw how skinny and fit. Show the thumbnail picture. You saw how like skinny he was. I liked him for that reason. Like, he was slim, good-looking guy, kind of, whatever. And he was a little on the old side, I guess. But then he got like fatter, and like his face got tightened up and like kind of distorted. And it reminds me of what happened to McCain too. McCain kind of got twisted a little bit later in life. And that's kind of tough to watch for me anyways. And now, like, two presidents who've been president in my lifetime have died. To me, that's kind of interesting, an interesting feeling, because you saw these guys kind of young, maybe not young, but vibrant, full of life, leading the country, and now they're gone. It's crazy. But Jimmy Carter is still kicking, meanwhile, who was not president in my lifetime, but he's been like being a liberal, being like a softie, I guess a fake Christian, because how can you be a Christian and be liberal, right? I don't know much about him. I don't know if I've heard his voice hardly, but Jimmy Carter was known as the worst president by a lot of people that I looked up to, but Obama took that cake. Obama took that prize of being the worst president. And but Jimmy Carter is still, he fought off brain cancer and all kinds of stuff. Maybe he's doing something right. He's into his 90s, I believe. So I don't know. And Sir Nasty is giving me a super chat asking, what do you think about Kareem Hunt, James? Seems to me it was self-defense. Love the show. Not familiar with that story, actually, Sir Nasty. Believe it or not. But I appreciate the support. There are a lot of self-defense cases. Sidetrack. There are a lot of self-defense cases that are not good. I mean, they're not good in the sense that people can't see things clearly. George Zimmerman, for example, you have to assume it was self-defense because you're presumed innocent unless proven guilty. But a lot of people think that he was the one who confronted Trayvon Martin, when there's no proof of that. So anyways, that's just a side note. So football player, Brandon Johnson tells me. I don't know. It doesn't ring a bell anyways. So, I hate to say it, but it's just on my mind that these anti-Trump conservatives are dropping like flies. And whether it's death or whether it's just taking a dive in the public view, like Jeff Flake, like so many of these media figures and comedians and people like that, who've just gone nuts, this Trump derangement syndrome. It's so interesting to me to see like who I could think of as like a good guy, and these people hate him that much, and it doesn't do well for them. It doesn't do them well. Kansas City Chiefs cut Kareem Hunt over video of brutal assault, says spoiler alert. I'll have to look into that. Maybe we'll talk about it on the Jesse Lee Peterson show. But, yeah, this is one thing, like one lesson that that you hear on the radio show that I produce, that you're supposed to be dispassionate, but these people that hate Trump, it's so easy for us Trump supporters to hate them. And you'll notice that the preacher followers do the same thing. There are very popular like street preachers and regular pastors and even like podcast hosts and all kinds of different things that some followers start infighting with others' followers, and it just gets nasty. And then the people on the top may or may not be setting the good example either. And it just shows you that, like, even though you may believe something that's true, or like say you agree with Christianity and Christianity is right, or you support Trump and Trump is right, doesn't make you right. Because if you're hating the haters, you're going to get messed up. It's better to be dispassionate, cool-headed, so that you can win. Like Trump. Trump stays cool-headed and he wins. And I love that about him. Caller, what's your name and where are you calling from?
James, it's Giuseppe from Texas. How are you, my brother?
Fine, Giuseppe. How are you?
I'm doing unbelievable. There's so many things to say, James.
All right.
First of all, I really appreciate you taking my call. And, man, there's just so much that you're saying with Bush. Okay, so as far as Vice President Bush, what came to me as you were talking about it was there's a scripture that says, I shall know you by your deeds.
You said not Vice President Bush.
No,
former
Bush.
President Bush. Yeah.
Yeah, Papa Bush. So
right.
You shall know me by my deeds. If there was ever a family that you wanted to look at and look at their actions, oh my God. Oh la la, Mamma Mia, the Bush family.
Ooh, la la.
Wow. There's too much to say about that. And then the other thing I wanted to say is that I think that
what's one thing that they did wrong?
Who, the Bush family?
Yeah.
Well, you could go back to Prescott Bush, correct? Prescott Bush, which is the
granddaddy.
The granddaddy. He's on record as funding the Nazis during the war. He's one of those guys that puts his money behind making wars.
That's interesting, but I mean, a lot of people supported Hitler, like Time Magazine. Did Time Magazine support Hitler? They certainly put him on the cover multiple times. I don't know if they supported him or they just thought that he was consequential. They try to act like they just thought he was consequential, but I think a lot of people supported him. And a lot of presidents, I believe, supported fascism too, like Mussolini type stuff. And I don't know if fascism is wrong, but Mussolini, I heard, murdered a lot of people. And that part's not good. And so, like, at the time that he was supporting them, had they killed, was he openly evil, the Nazis say? Were they openly evil?
Wow, that's such a great point. I get what you're talking about, right?
And people can tell that some people can see evil before others. Like, Jesse knew Obama was evil. Jesse knew that Obama supported same-sex marriage before the media admitted it, and then before Obama admitted it.
Well, wait a second. What I think actually is happening there is Jesse's saying the truth in that moment, and I disagree with you. I don't think that the media, like people in journalism, people who I think are in a fallen state, I don't think that they can't see that Obama is pro-abortion and, the things that Jesse was pointing out. I think that they see that, they know that that's a reality, and they choose to ignore it.
Yeah, but there was a lot of, I think some people legitimately thought that Obama did not support same-sex marriage, even though he really did, because he paid that lip service to opposing it. Kind of like Hitler, there's this dispute over whether Hitler was atheist or Christian. Hitler may have been atheist, but he paid lip service to Christianity or something like that. There's a lot of all that disputed history. It's hard to tell. So,
Right.
I can't point to this historical stuff and say that's proof that these Bushes are crooked. But you look at the present moment and you can tell that the Bushes are a mess, because look at what a sad case Jeb Bush is or has been. I don't know if I haven't seen him recently. Maybe he's gone through a change. But man, these people are a mess. They just really expose themselves as being to vote for Hillary Clinton at 94. And Joel makes the point, if these nasty people can live to 94, maybe you can live forever.
Right, and he was pinching fannies. He was pinching fannies on the way out. Did you see that report too?
Oh, I mean, that's old school, I guess.
Right.
That's the good old days.
He liked to grab a tushy. Right, he liked to grab a tushy. But
that's shameful.
What I think is brilliant about what you're saying, James, if I may,
all right,
is that even in this discussion, you're bringing it back to your original principles of saying, wait a second, and we're quoting Jesse here, right? We're always trying to bring it back to just good and evil.
Yeah.
So that's a great point. I started the phone call by bringing you, quote unquote, factual, intellectual information. And I went, hey, James, listen, this is in history books and this is a record. This is a fact. And you pulled back and said, no, wait a second. Let's just take a look at each individual thing that's going on and have discernment. Is it good or is it evil? So I thank you for that.
Yeah, right on. Appreciate that, Giuseppe. Nice to hear from you. Anything else?
No, I just thanks for the opportunity. It's always a pleasure. I do think that our only salvation in this country, if you want my 2 cents, will come at the hands of black people. Black Americans, once they wake up, I think that they have the power to actually save our country. I do believe that. So, amen. See you in church.
All right. Appreciate that, Giuseppe. Oops. Yeah, that's interesting. I kind of thought that way too. Spoiler alert says, Hitler was loved and admired by people all around the world for having brought Germany out of the Great Depression with an amazing economy. He was in office for 6 years before the war started. And that's before all that crazy stuff started happening. Anyways, so about George Bush and about what Giuseppe said. By the way, Skip said that George Bush coined the phrase New World Order. So he was a globalist. NWO. Like the, remember NWO? Maybe that's 10 years before. When I was in high school. The WWF became the WWE, World Wrestling Federation became World Wrestling Entertainment, and then they had this NWO thing, New World Order. And I wasn't that much of a follower of, that was Nintendo 64? Dude, yeah. Yeah, and 64 came out. PlayStation had come out too, I think. The first one. Anyways, NWA? Oh, am I getting confused between that?
No, NWO is the wrestling.
Okay. Because Scott is confusing me. By the way, Scott's a good guy. He asked for prior church services to be podcasted, and I podcasted one, and I need to get on more. Church with Jesse Lee Peterson / Sunday services from Bond from back in the day. We want to get more of those out because they're nice. They're good things to watch and listen to. And so thank you for the request, Scott. You can bug me about it to remind me. So Giuseppe said an interesting point about he thinks that black people will be like kind of the salvation of, if they turn around, will be the kind of salvation of the country. You'll notice that President Trump is like the most effective person in bringing blacks around. And it's just because he's a tough, strong, normal, honest, direct white man who's just saying it like it is, and the blacks really respect him for that, as all people do. Even the people that disrespect him still are forced to pay attention to him because he wins and he doesn't back down, and it's so nice. Let me see. Man. Okay, let me give you an example. Before I get to the calls, let me give you a quick example of Trump winning and, say, like Jesse winning. Because a lot of the detractors don't think of Trump as winning, and they don't think of Jesse as winning. Winning, one example of winning is winning, like, souls, turning people to the side of good, and a lot of people. I mean, you just look on the internet, and there's a lot of people awakened by Trump. Ourselves, myself included, awakened to the degeneracy, I guess, of the Bushes. And Jesse has, there was one, caller after caller on Jesse's show are like forgiving their parents, their mothers, and stuff like that, and turning their lives around. But before all this before all this wave of people came, there was one guy who was called in, and I don't know if Joel would remember him, but his name was Christian from Canton, Michigan, or is Christian from Canton, Michigan. He called in. He was an atheist, not a militant atheist, a black guy, a family man, but going through some tough times. And even with his father, he wasn't close to him. But he was asking like honest questions. Jesse sent him from rage to responsibility. He read that. And then he kind of reconnected with his dad. Now they're close. And his family, his wife, his kids are doing better. He's had some challenges with the schools, I guess public schools over there. He's close to Detroit, Michigan. And there's some, you know how teachers are crazy nowadays. Most teachers are millennials. What else do I have to say? And millennials, many of them are lost and nuts. Many of them are on the side of good, but a lot more are nuts, and especially the teacher kind. They're academics, they went to college, they're brainwashed, they think they know stuff, and then they support homosexuality and all kinds of crazy stuff. So this guy, he heard Jesse on the radio talking about starting his own business, and he called in and asked a couple of questions, and then he started his own auto detailing business, and he's doing quite well. He's doing so well that he hardly calls in anymore because he's just so busy. First of all, he's a family man, but also he's, and I think his sons watch the show too, and they're like young growing up. But he's busy with this successful auto detailing business over near the Detroit area. So that's awesome. And we don't hear from him much, and I'll tell you that maybe the people that are doing best, or many of the people that are doing great, you don't hear from them a lot because they're too busy winning in life. Isn't that great? So, and he's a really, almost every time he called, he would make some great points and just like humiliate without trying to really just totally humiliate. Guests who were nuts, other callers who hated Jesse and stuff like that. Just like, because Jesse attracts a lot of blacks who really hate him for like telling the truth about blacks. And then they're the more like well-behaved blacks supposedly that are not committing all that violence. But then they're by arguing with Jesse about the ones who are committing violence and all that stuff, they're basically making excuses for what a sad, sorry state the black community is in. And for that reason, like, Yes, if the black community made a positive change on the whole, but I think it's not even on the whole. I think it's just a minority because it doesn't take much to win. It really doesn't take much to win. Look at Trump. He just stood alone, and that was powerful, and he won. And there's one point. I got a sneak peek at an article that Jesse wrote that is coming out today, I believe, where God told Abraham, Father Abraham, that he would not destroy like Sodom and Gomorrah, I guess, where Abraham's cousin Lot lived, if he could find 10 good men. At first he said like 50, and then he cut it down to 10. He might have said even more than that, like 150 and then 10. But God couldn't even find 10 good men. And so that city was destroyed. So like, think about that. Maybe if we just get like a strong, powerful minority of good people, then we win in America. Despite all the overwhelming numbers of people who are the children of the lie. Because wide is the road, and many who follow it that leads to destruction. So anyways, caller, what's your name and where are you calling from?
Hello, gentlemen. My name is Clinton, and I'm calling from Tuscaloosa, Alabama.
Hey, Clinton from Tuscaloosa, Alabama. You've called in the past, I think. I recognize.
I have. Yes, I have. It's been a while. It's kind of like what you said. The people that are winning, we're busy, but I just had a little time, and I had to get something on my chest, and I saw that you were live and popped up off my phone. So
cool.
When you on that path to success, you really don't have that many people to talk to you,
right?
That understand you. But I had an experience here, man. I got some tires 2 months ago, and I've been going back and forth to this place. It was at Sam's, and
like Sam's Club.
I'm like, hey, Sam's Club. I'm like, hey, something wrong with my tires. I kept getting lumps in my tires, and so I finally went back today after finding out this morning. Luckily, I looked at the passenger side of my side, so I went back.
You cut out there. You cut out there for a second, Clinton. You were talking about you went over and looked at the passenger side of your vehicle, something.
Yeah, and it was a big lump on the side of my tire. And so I went back to Sam's this morning, and I said, hey, I don't know what's going on, but there has to be a problem here. I've never have had a batch of tires be this bad. And so they're scratching their heads, don't know what's going on. And one guy finally looked up in the computer, and he was like, I'm sorry to inform you, but you were sold the wrong tires for your car. You don't even supposed to be having those type of tires on your car. And so they's like, do you remember who he is? And I said, yes, it was a black guy with dreads. I remember him. And I'm like, so you mean to tell me that he looked into the computer and he still got it wrong? And they said, yes. And I'm like, man, this is just ridiculous for people to have jobs. And they, I just get so tired of people having jobs and they upset that they have a job and they shouldn't be working. So I'm not against, these robots coming and taking a lot of these people's jobs because, again, for the last 2 months, I've been a hazard to, my community. The guy told me,
that sounds dangerous.
That my tires haven't, popped or done anything, or, I could have had a wreck or anything. And it's just, we got all these incompetent people working at these jobs, and then, they talking about they want, $10 or $15, and they're not
right.
even worth that
per hour.
So I want to jump to another subject because I don't want to take up too much.
Let me jump in there real quick though. You talked about how you're tired, no pun intended, of these people. Sam's Club, if you guys don't know, is related to Walmart. And they are a huge company. They're basically a big warehouse membership store, not unlike Costco. And they have this tire service. I've used them before too, by the way, before I ended my membership with Sam's Club. I think it was Paula Deen, when Paula Deen got in trouble for having 30 years prior said the N-word or something. And they took her books off the shelf, and I got annoyed with them, and and so I ended my
Wow,
membership.
I didn't know that.
I heard it on the
Messed up.
Jesse Lee Peterson show years ago, and it made me want to boycott Sam's Club.
Wow.
But anyways, I used them. It's just like that just shows you the degradation of like society, where
Yes.
a big trusted company like that, where they're supposed to be professional. I don't
Yes.
know how this man with dreads portrayed himself, but in his behavior with you when he was selling you these bad tires or wrong tires, but they're a company that you would trust
Right.
over any random mom and pop, which happens to be more trustworthy, I guess. I don't know.
Absolutely.
But nowadays you can't trust people. That's like a shocking
trust?
wake-up call type of a story.
Yes, and that's what I told the manager, because I had to, like I said, I held myself very
Stay
well.
close to the
I
phone.
had-
Stay close to the phone. I can't hear you very well.
Okay, I don't know what's going on with my phone,
That's
but yeah,
better.
I had to tell the manager that, you know, who can you trust? If I can't trust you all,
Yeah.
you got a man here in front of a computer, and the computer is telling him the answer. Hey, this is the tire, and he gives me the wrong tire. Like that's bad.
Yeah.
But you know, I wanted to say something about you just kind of touched on it here about, you know, with irrational black people and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
I've noticed that when you sit back and you take a look at a bunch of things, and I did this a few weeks ago, and then you see the top black celebrities, they profit off of keeping the majority of black people dumb. They profit off of that. And that's what I have really, really been noticing. Like, no one is really, you know, except for Mr. Peterson and you got a few small people, but people don't really want to experience their higher self, because it's harder. That's why people love being in their lower self, because it's easier to just take the easy way out. But, you know, unfortunately, we're so heavily influenced by what we see on television instead of, you know, being at peace with ourselves and reading books and, you know, just getting to know ourselves on a more spiritual level. And that's why, unfortunately, you know, people that allow other people to dictate how to feel, they own them. And, you know, I was reading that in the book here recently. I'm not done with it yet, but it's a really, really good read about human nature. Robert Greene, The Laws of Human Nature. And it's just so black people are in a very, very emotional state. And I've been noticing this and looking at it from a marketing standpoint, a business standpoint. They got to keep, you know, if they can keep you in an emotional state, you don't have control of your own life.
Yeah.
All right. So, and that's one of the biggest
so
things
true.
that I have noticed, and it's kind of sad to see this stuff, especially with all of the information out here. And it's just like, man. But on the flip side of it, you know, again, what do you do? Because now I'm like, man, I don't even want to deal with humans, you know, because who do you trust? If you're trying to go and get something like your car taken care of, or you know,
just
a
have
doctor
to
or something.
You just have to be you have to be willing to be a pain in the neck, I
Right.
think.
Right.
And I've watched people be old timers, especially be a pain in the.
Yeah.
I call them old timers, but I mean like the old people that you respect.
Oh yeah, I was listening
So-
to a radio show guy, and he was talking about that, to where he's not going to let a black doctor operate on him, or
Right.
I forgot the other races that he was talking about. And I definitely, and you know, people will look at it, oh, he's racist. No, because
Yeah.
what he was saying, if you listen to him, he was talking about affirmative action and stuff. And I see that. You know, I remember being in college, and they were just letting anybody in college, right?
Yep.
And they were just stupid. And they were just passing these people, and I don't want this person being my lawyer. I don't want this person being my doctor.
You know, Clinton, I
don't want-
gotta go, but I appreciate this. And
Okay.
You're so
Okay.
right. But take care,
All right.
man. And
I will.
yeah,
You too.
make sure you
Bye-bye.
double check those tires.
I will, man. Later.
This is a warning. And spoiler alert makes the sense, makes the point that the auto maintenance world has long had a history of gypping you. He didn't use the word gyp. That's like a, I don't know where I got that word. But of incompetence and dishonesty and all that stuff. And that's true. And I think that it's gotten worse because this is Sam's Club. They're not supposed to be doing that to their members. They would get in such trouble. I mean, yeah, that's bad publicity for Sam's Club. Deserved, though. It's a shame. Let me get to some more callers. Caller, what's your name and where are you calling from?
Hello, James.
Hey, Maze, how are you?
I'm just fine.
Good.
I want to know what group of black people are going to save America.
Which group of black people are going to save America?
Let me give you
I don't totally agree with him. I think that I was making the point that Trump kind of awakened a lot of people, and blacks included. And I was saying that, like, anybody who's good will be the saving of America. Because, like I pointed out, where God said if he found 10 good men among Sodom and Gomorrah, which they didn't exist, then they would not have been destroyed.
Save America.
So it doesn't really matter if they're black or not. But
the color has nothing to do with what can save America.
Right.
What can save America, some of the envy that people have that was written in the commandments, that could save America, not a group of black people. And the guy that just hung up.
The envy that people have.
Stupid what he just said. A man with dreads on a machine put his tire. Same thing happened to my sister, but it wasn't Sam. It was one of the name brand places.
Uh-huh.
Now, when you get your food with salmonella and stuff in it, whose fault is it? The GM is closing. Whose fault is it? And it's not a person of color. I mean,
it just happened to be.
Black people.
It's not stupid for him to point out who it was.
So when you get confused,
you just gave a description of the culprit.
What them Caucasian people wear dreads too. So he was not.
That's why he said a black guy with dreads. It just gives you a visual. It just gave me a.
People like that.
I found it very helpful and interesting information.
James, let me tell you the 5 different groups of black people.
What?
You get confused them. You got those that work for money, those that hate themselves, those that always got the meal, and you got those that don't care, and you got those that look at things and laugh at it because it's funny. And then they're in nobody's group, and so you choose the one you want to be in. But then you got those that come moaning and blaming and complaining, just like the one that just hung up. Everything except himself, because he don't love himself. So I got a question for you.
How do you figure this man Clinton doesn't love himself?
Mad with people because they went to college and talking about affirmative action. More Caucasian women benefited from affirmative action than anybody. So
that's irrelevant.
So he need to get himself together.
That's irrelevant.
I do have a question for you, James.
I doubt that he trusts Caucasian women either.
And since y'all love black people so much, what do you think about black people that want to act whiter than white people? I was looking at some yesterday. I'm like, what's wrong with them? Why can't they be themselves? Why they got something to act like the people?
Maybe
whiter than the people that they with?
Maybe that's just how they were raised.
Excuse me? That's how they were raised.
Yeah, there's a lot of black people who talk white or maybe act white.
I'm not talking white. I'm saying the way they do the manner that they had and the things that they were doing. See, because it's like
I don't know.
5 different groups of.
I don't know.
It's 5 different groups of Caucasians too.
This is all so irrelevant. Not,
just like it is a different group of black people.
Yeah.
But then you put yourself down to lift somebody else up. God is on like that. He's not a Christian.
Who put themselves down?
The one that just hung up.
He never put himself down.
Oh yes, he did.
No.
He put himself down to lift someone else up.
How so?
If you don't lift everybody up, and you lift and you put
how did he
down,
put himself down?
He's always gonna be a slave. That's what slaves used to do.
How did he put himself down?
When you hear Jesse say, when I
Maze.
sleep, that's when you sleep, I sleep. That's what I'm saying. He's one of those.
Anyways, Maze, you don't get it. Okay, so if somebody talks about, hey, Maze, are you saying that does Jesse put himself down?
I said, excuse me?
Does Jesse put himself down?
Yes.
Yeah, I get it. So if you talk about other black people, somehow that's yourself.
If you were doing it, James, I'd tell you the same thing.
I do talk about white people.
If you go on every day.
So if I talk negatively about other white people, I'm putting myself down?
Yes, you are.
No, that's ridiculous, Maze. Why do you think that's way?
If you're talking about one person, that's a whole different story.
Do you consider are you a spiritual person?
But as a group,
Maze,
you can't do that.
Hold on, Maze. Are you a spiritual person?
No.
Oh, wow. Okay, that explains it. But that's weird. That's still weird.
I don't play.
Are you an individual?
The Bible, and I don't
Are you an individual?
Excuse me? Yes, I am.
Then how is it putting yourself down if you're
I
putting
said
out
you put
other people who
individuals
happen to
down
be
'cause you
also
can look
black?
at what one person do, but you don't put them in a group and look at the group as the same thing. And that's what that one that just hung up, screaming and hollering about somebody going to school and being smart.
He wasn't
And then
screaming.
the rich people doing this. Tell them to worry about GM closing up. Tell them to worry about all this food that they got a recall on.
All right.
All these cars they got a recall on. And it's not black people that's doing it.
Yeah, thank you, Mace. That was an
So tell them
interesting
to get
peek
a grip.
inside of your mind. Take care.
And with that, as I say, be yourself and love yourself, and you can love everybody.
Right. Thank you.
Have a good one.
You too. And okay, the rest of the callers, I will get to you. Hang tight for one quick moment. I want to point out that one thing that I respect about some of these older people, Trump and Bill O'Reilly, they are. A lot of you do not like Bill O'Reilly for some reason, various reasons. Some of your criticisms may be valid. I have some criticisms of him, but I like him. I respect him. And I can identify with, a lot of boomers like Bill O'Reilly, the former Fox News host, and a lot of Gen X, Gen Y, Gen Z, I don't know. They don't like him, and they think he's pompous and all that stuff. They may be pompous themselves, and just in a different way. But there's Bill O'Reilly and Donald Trump don't drink. And they were very highly successful, traditional, like old school men. They had their flaws, some of them, I think they got rid of their some of their flaws, I believe that they overcame, especially Trump, I think. Now, I respect and defend Bill O'Reilly. I see the boomers' point. A lot of, the boomers are not perfect. They have their tendencies of believing certain things that are not true, such as they fall for the racism thing sometimes, whereas the younger people don't fall for it so easily. They see through the media lies a little bit more easily because it's so obvious. But set all that aside, set aside your differences on Bill O'Reilly. He got taken down, and it was over sexual misconduct allegations. And whether that was deserved or not, I really don't believe it was deserved. But there's this principle that Jesse and others have repeated where you get what you deserve in life. And Jesse said maybe you've missed something that that you should not have been missing. And you have to, that's why it's so important to observe yourself, your life, and take heed at the little warnings that you receive in life, because what you're doing can catch up with you. And if you try to stand on the side of good, you're going to get it hard. You're going to get that opposition come crashing down on you bad, because they hate you not only because you're weak, but also because you're trying to stand for good. And that makes them hate you all the more. Look at Christians. Christians are so hated for being hypocrites when everybody's a hypocrite. But Christians are trying to stand for good, but they're so weak about it. And so they're hated even more. And so then when they're attacked, or when they're found out to be corrupt in some way, or when they're just accused of being corrupt and the accusation is repeated enough and other people start to believe it, they're just totally just slimed. But I've said before, the Bible says to be blameless. And if you don't, and when you're, like I've said before, when you're younger, you get away with being corrupt. And when you're older, it comes harder on you. And that is kind of what happened with Bill O'Reilly. I don't know what happened to what he was missing that this came at him so badly, but it was nice to see other people like Sean Hannity, who was accused, fight back against it and win. And it was nice to see Donald Trump fight back against it and win. And other people have fought back but not won. Like Judge Roy Moore, for instance. He was accused and accused and accused and slimed and slimed and slimed. And a lot of people don't like him. And it was all these crazy accusations where he got taken down, at least in the sense that he did not win his election. Now, like, it is so important to just keep on fighting back. Don't give up on yourself. Where and the giving up on yourself is like giving in to, like, resigning yourself to allowing evil to continue in your life. It's not smart. It's not good. It'll catch up with you bad. So even in ways that you may not feel are justified, but it just happens. That's how life happens. What a mess. Let me get to some calls. Caller, what's your name and where are you calling from?
Chad, I'm calling from Rockford.
Hey, can you repeat your first name?
Chad.
Chad. It's coming in really loud. And Chad, are you on a speakerphone?
No, I'm not.
Okay, cool. Yeah, what's your question or comment, Chad? Good to hear from you.
Well, I just wanted to talk to you. I'm a white person, and I live in a neighborhood with a lot of black people, and they're just, in the Midwest at least, they're just as normal as could be. They're just trying to raise their families, and they're very polite in the convenience store. They hold the door for me because I've got Parkinson's disease, and they discipline their kids to make sure that they don't get in my way or, do anything like that.
Where is this again?
And this is in Rockford.
Rockford, Illinois. Is that Illinois?
That's in Illinois, correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I find that the majority of them aren't criminals, and the majority of them aren't bad or negative or stereotypical. I think they just are trying to raise their families.
Nice.
They generally have bigger families than white people.
Yeah.
But I was campaigning for a local congressman, and he said that he wanted to see this one black woman, and this black woman had about 10 kids, and she said, all these kids, they had to be home by 10 o'clock, and they better be able to tell me where they've been, and she was keeping up after her kids, and she just wanted to see her state representative, and she talked to him for about half an hour, and she said she didn't have any problem with welfare because welfare helps a lot of people, and I've been on food stamps myself when I was between jobs, and I think that it comes from a poor section of town. A lot of the Swedes or senior citizens are dying off, and a lot of the black people are moving in because the east side is more developed than the west side, and the east side. A lot of the black people are moving to the east side, and they really feel like it's a move up to get the middle class type of house, one-car garage, and whereas white people, they seem to think they have to move up to a $200,000 and $300,000 house to be happy.
Yeah, people have become really shallow and just chasing after that money and convenience and comfort. It's bad. We have it bad in America right now.
Absolutely.
Now, most of those people in your area, do they have both parents, father and mother, or just the mothers?
Yeah, most of them have both father and mother. A lot of them aren't married, but they've got a lot of fathers. I see a lot of black fathers carrying black babies in the convenience store, and they don't buy a lot of beer. It's a pretty quiet evening. In the average street, I've only called the cops one time, and the only time I did was because there was a white girl that was screaming in the alley, and I thought something was going on, but nothing was going on. The police didn't even turn on their lights. They just went through to make sure everything was okay. And I haven't had any problems in 7 years,
7 years or 70?
7.
Okay. How long have you've lived in that area for 7 years?
I've lived in that area since 1989.
Oh, wow. How far from Chicago is Rockford?
About an hour and 15 minutes.
Okay. Interesting. That's a nice report, Chad. How old are you, by the way?
How old am I?
Yeah.
52.
Wow. Wow, you're young.
Yeah, I'm pretty young. I have Parkinson's disease.
How long have you had Parkinson's?
I've had Parkinson's for about 9 years now. and they're very polite. Whenever I walk across the street, they know I'm from the neighborhood,
Yeah.
and they know I don't have any money. So sometimes they'll let me wait and go in front of the line and hold the phone, or hold the door for me. And they'll help me out with change and stuff. Or like if I got the wrong can of non-alcoholic beer, they'll go back and give me another can. I find them to be very, very wonderful people. I know they're not all that way. I'm generalizing, but in the Midwest, I really find them to be really good neighbors.
Nice.
They generally make improvements on the house.
That's cool. How did you find this show?
I found the show because Jesse was on Newsreel. He was
Newsmax?
sitting in for you. And I tried to get into a show, and I tried. And
Right.
this morning, I just dialed the number just one time, and the first time I called, it rang, and I got in.
Nice.
Couldn't believe it.
Right on. So are you on, do you ever go on to YouTube?
Yeah, sometimes.
Okay, because I'm actually streaming on YouTube only. I'm not on Newsmax or anything like that. You said did you mean Newsmax? You said Newsreel, but did you mean Newsmax TV?
Excuse me. Yeah, I meant Newsmax.
Yeah, cool. Wow.
Jesse was on.
Right on. Yeah. Do you catch Jesse's on every day, Monday through Friday? 8 a.m. Central Time.
I usually get up and I catch Jesse in the morning.
Cool.
I've been trying to call in. I've been about a couple weeks listener, and it's the first time caller.
That's cool.
And he said he was sitting in for somebody.
Yeah. Okay. So you would have caught him on Brett Winterble's hour, like in the 9 or 10 a.m. hour.
Yeah, that's correct.
If he was filling in for somebody. Cool. I'm glad that you found us. And yeah, most people are going to be decent, especially in the Midwest. Most blacks included, or at least they're going to try to be decent, especially towards someone like you that they see maybe struggling or something like that, and they're going to try to set a good example. That's cool.
I've got nothing but good reports, I'll tell you.
That's cool. I'm glad. So it sounds like you live in a pretty decent area, not too much crime.
Yeah, it's not a bad area. It's not a good area, but it's not a bad.
Yeah.
We have mostly problems with vandalism, car theft occasionally, but that's about it.
They better deal with that before it grows into a bigger problem.
Yeah, because usually it's just kids. My brother lives down the street, and my nephew got his car stolen, and they took a joyride, and there were white people that did that.
Uh-huh.
That doesn't matter. Crime is crime, whether you're black or white.
Yep.
But it was mostly, vandalism and stuff. There is a street gang territory that has that marked as our turf. One time we got their turf symbol on the back of our building, and my dad came down. I rent from my dad.
Uh-huh.
My dad came down at 1:30 in the morning. It was 20 below, and we went out and painted over the gang symbol.
20 below? And you guys are fixing the graffiti? Man, Midwesterners are tough.
Yeah, that's right. We wanted to get it off. We didn't want to give them any satisfaction.
Right on.
So we just painted the whole thing, and we painted over it. And the next day they were walking to school. Whoever did it, I figured they were probably walking to school or going to work, and they saw that it was painted over. So we don't have much trouble with gangs.
Good.
I'm not afraid to
I've
walk
heard
out
of Rockford, and I don't remember what for, if it was an illegal alien story or a black story or some type of other thing. Did you say, yes, you do catch YouTube sometimes, or you do have internet access? Because
I have internet access. Yeah, I do.
Because in an hour at 1 p.m. your time, or shortly after sometimes, because we are late sometimes, Jesse holds church on his YouTube channel, which is called Bond Rebuilding the Man. Bond Rebuilding the Man. So look for that on YouTube, or go to rebuildingtheman.com/church. That's a website. That website has the YouTube video embedded on it, linked to it. So rebuildingtheman.com/church. Or just click on the church thing if you just go to rebuildingtheman.com.
Because I can't get out to church. I like church services.
Yeah, I think you'll like I think you'll like this. There's not a lot of singing, but there's a lot of really open and eye-opening and really good discussion. So I think that you will enjoy it.
I like the hellfire and brimstone kind
Yeah,
of preaching, too.
Me
Black
too.
people do that very well.
Cool. Well, thank you, Chad. It's nice. It's been nice to talk with you. I hope to hear from you
Great
again.
talking with you.
All right. And take care.
Take care.
All right. Bye. Let me get to this last caller real quick before we finish up. Caller, that's terrible. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Hey, James, this is Skip. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. How are you?
I'm good. How you doing, James?
Doing fine.
Hey, you remember when I told you the bad Mexican joke?
Oh yeah, there was 11 that you heard 11 Mexicans died because a bunk bed collapsed, and I didn't catch on that it was a joke.
Well, look at here. I want to make this clear, so just in case that caller is listening again, I will let you in on it. This is a joke, okay?
All right.
All right. The black churches and the white churches down here finally come to an understanding about Noah. The black churches said Noah was black, and the white churches said Noah was white. And then they finally somebody come up and said, well, if Noah was black, there ain't no way a chicken would have made it on that water for 40 days and 40 nights. Now, that's just a joke now.
I know.
I don't mean nothing by it, okay?
That reminds me of another joke, real quick, where a black guy and a white guy were arguing about whether God or Jesus was black or something. And you know where Jesus or God or something said, I am what I am.
Yeah.
Well, if he were black, he would have said, I is what I is.
I is what I is. I know that joke. That's a good one, too.
Yeah, it is. I appreciate it, Skip. Nice to hear from you. You going to be in church?
Thanks, James. You're doing a great job, and I'll see you at church in a little while, okay?
All right. Appreciate it. Take care.
All right, you too, buddy. Bye.
All right. That's a wrap for the Hake Report. Thank you for joining. Catch Church with Jesse Lee Peterson in 1 hour, 11 a.m. Pacific Time, 1 p.m. Central, 2 p.m. Eastern. Church every Sunday. rebuildingtheman.com/church. It's the best. Also, make sure you subscribe, like, follow at The Hake Report on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and, of course, YouTube. Share it. Thanks, guys. Take care.
What?